हे मेरी जान, मैं हूँ आपकी नॉन स्टॉप निकी। और जैसे कि हर कोई चंद्रयान के बारे में, चंद्रयान 3 के बारे में बहुत सारी बातें हो रही हैं। लेकिन सबसे अच्छी बात ये है, उन बातों के पीछे ऐसे बहुत सारे सवाल होंगे जिसके बारे में शायद आपको पता नहीं होगा। लेकिन आज मेरे साथ जो हस्ती मौजूद है, इनके बारे में मैं आपको क्या बताऊँ। 36 ईयर्स से भी ज़्यादा एक्सपीरियंस इस दुनिया में, जहाँ पर मेरी जान जब बात आती है इसरो की, जब बात आती है एक ऐसे साइंटिस्ट की जो मेरे साथ यहाँ पर मौजूद है, एन आउटस्टैंडिंग साइंटिस्ट, आई मस्ट से दैट विनोद जी मेरे साथ आज मौजूद है। फॉर्मर आउटस्टैंडिंग साइंटिस्ट एंड एसोसिएट डायरेक्टर, नेशनल रिमोट सेंसिंग, इसरो हैदराबाद। 36 years of experience in ISRO, various centers में। विनोद जी, यू हैव बीन देयर अ पार्ट, रेवोल्यूशनाइजिंग जितने भी जो चीजें हुई हैं उसका भी आप पार्ट बने। द जर्नी दैट यू हैव बीन विद इसरो इज फैंटास्टिक। My first question to you would be, sir, it's like as a child, were you always fascinated that आप एक scientist बनेंगे? My first question, Vinod ji, would be that. Let's start that first. क्या
Okay,
कहेंगे
first
sir?
of all, thank you, Nikki, for having me on the show. Of course, साइंटिस्ट बनेंगे ये कभी ख्वाहिश रखी तो नहीं थी, टू बी वेरी
अच्छा,
फ्रैंक। हाँ, जरूर पहले सोचा था कि इंजीनियर बनेंगे। एक उस वक्त इंजीनियर और डॉक्टर वो दो ही कैटेगरी होती थी, और तीसरा लॉयर कभी कभी।
हाँ जी।
तो बट ऐसा है कि लाइफ टेक्स टर्न। सो एज सुन
Okay.
एज आई कंप्लीटेड मास्टर्स इन कंट्रोल सिस्टम्स फ्रॉम IIT रुड़की,
Wow.
I got an opportunity to join ISRO Satellite Center that time in ISRO, and I think that was a life-changing moment for me.
Brilliant. And that life-changing moment made, there's so many beautiful journeys that you have seen so far. So it's like when I say 36 years and above, I'm so sure इतने path breaking चीजें हुई हैं, and among that path breaking that we are going to talk about is Chandrayaan 3. And I'm so sure again here that many people must be wondering कि यार Chandrayaan 3 का इस बार का जो objective क्या है? So let's start with that question first, Vinod ji. What is the basic objective of Chandrayaan 3?
Okay, sure. I mean, basically, it has three major objectives.
Okay.
Subsequently, we can go in drill down detail. First of all, landing on moon is a very difficult thing. So,
Mhm.
soft landing on moon, that is the first major objective.
Right, sir.
Then, secondly, if we want to study the moon, then we have to study its surface.
Correct.
So, considering that to move the rover on moon surface, that is the
Mhm.
second major objective.
Correct.
And thirdly, having gone there, definitely we have to do certain experiments. So in situ experimentation on moon surface by lander and rover, and getting the in-depth information so that we can further study moon, as well as about our own formation of the earth from there. So these are basically three major objectives as such.
क्या बात है! तो मतलब सर ऐसा भी हो सकता है अगर पता चल जाए कि ऑक्सीजन और मतलब वहाँ पे एक मून कॉलोनी भी बन सकती है इन फ्यूचर। लाइक
That is of course in that is of course in cards. And Chandrayaan 1, our first mission to moon, has proved that there are water molecules
यस,
existing, and so there is a lot of hope on that now.
बिल्कुल सर। एंड सर you talked about rover and lander. Like there are so many kids, so many school going boys and girls, as well as the entire listeners of Fever FM who's watching this video on our Fever FM official YT channel and are going to hear us on radio. So what is a lander and what is a rover? If we can have an understanding of this as well.
Yeah. I will just go back to the Chandrayaan 2 first, so that they will have some
For
linkages.
sure, sir.
Chandrayaan,
Yes.
we had three major parts. One is the Chandrayaan 2 orbiter that will keep revolving over the moon. The
Okay.
second part it was having was a lander, that's name was Vikram lander,
Yes.
and third is the Pragyan rover.
Correct.
So now, after this, now Chandrayaan 2, we have already our orbiter in the space, so it's already there in the over the moon. So this time for Chandrayaan 3, we had lander and rover were main components, and they were being taken to moon by a propulsion model.
Okay.
So lander's main objective is that it has to get the rover onto the moon surface. Now, how
Okay.
to get it? So it has to revolve, propulsion model has to revolve around the moon and keep descending to the extent that subsequently we can have some rough braking phrase and subsequent maneuvers, so that lander can sit onto the, come to the moon and
Wow.
sit on its leg, and then subsequently roll the rover on the moon surface.
Yeah.
So lander has got a lot of technical capabilities in that process, because it has to come from descent from the almost like 30 kilometers subsequent to the surface of the moon.
Wow.
It has specific instrument on that.
क्या बात है. And so you almost touched base on the technologies. I'm so sure the improvised version of Chandrayaan 3 over Chandrayaan 2 would have been a basics that people would want to also know about that. You also touched base a few points on that as well. But can we like the improvised version of Chandrayaan 3 over Chandrayaan 2? Can we talk about that? How Chandrayaan 3 has improved over Chandrayaan 2, sir?
Yeah. See, Chandrayaan 2, actually, we had a real almost like we were in the final nail biting finish, and somehow it didn't happen.
Yes.
The lander crashed onto the moon. Subsequently, we could realize that. So now, I mean, all that fault finding mechanism has been done by ISRO, and there are a number of studies conducted. So now, with all those outcome of those studies, has made number of improvisations in Chandrayaan 3. One of the major improvisation was done was the basically logic in the soft landing of moon has been changed, so that total software has been changed. Along with that, there were number of changes like, for example, it has now more fuel. So in case of any dispersions, it takes more time to land. It can sustain with more fuel. Subsequently, then also it requires more power. So battery life has increased.
Wow.
Then it has now improved sensors which can sense the moon surface. Additionally, because Chandrayaan 2 orbiter was already there, we had high resolution image of the moon surface, so which has been fed to now Chandrayaan 3. So Chandrayaan 3 is now well aware what is there, and it can compare all those images before just landing.
Amazing.
As well as if we see, there is one specific instrument has been now mounted on Chandrayaan 3, which is measures the horizontal velocity and vertical velocity, because that is these two components are very, very important before landing. So there are two improvements which have been carried out for that.
Amazing. So
one important point is that because having done all this, there has to be a thorough testing.
So true.
Almost 2 years, ISRO has done the testing to see that nothing goes wrong.
Correct.
And whole design of Chandrayaan 3 has been now made, considering that many things may fail, but still you have to recover from that. So it's a fail-based approach for designing.
Amazing.
With that, hopefully we should be able to have a great day today.
Totally. And of course, 14th July, when the entire Chandrayaan 3 took place, the launch happened. Everyone was so excited. Even today, the entire, I think even मैं आपको बता दूं कि sir भी बहुत busy होने वाले हैं थोड़े कुछ time के बाद, but the entire excitement is so high. But if I have to ask you, sir, about the mission life of the lander and rover, then how long is the mission life of this when it comes to Chandrayaan 3?
Yeah, lander and rover mission life is very short, but it's very important. It is essentially a one full day on moon. So that is equivalent to the 14 days on Earth. And the landing is planned in such a way that as soon as the moon, sun rises on the moon, so there is sunshine on the near South Pole, we have to land so that we get full day to operate. So that almost gives us 14 Earth days. So because lander and rover both operate on a solar power, so solar energy is must for them. So as soon as the night starts, then they will have a power generation issue. So they are not designed to stand for the lunar night, which is very chilling and totally dark. It almost goes to like minus 203 degrees centigrade in the night. And in the daytime, it is plus 54 degrees centigrade. It has to go for a very high transient.
Wow, so you've actually taken me to the world where radio is it's all theater of mind. I can actually imagine everything sitting here and talking to you about it. But so this entire peculiar route, which a lot of people talk about, Chandrayaan 3 circles the Earth many times before it reaches the moon, and then again circles the moon many times, as you also mentioned how with a solar power it works. But this entire lander detaches itself from the population module and the scans on the moon surface. And it's a little subjective question, but so why this peculiar route is being always considered, if there's some answer to this as well?
Yeah, and people get astonished why many of the nations, they are directly going to moon with one shot. And why we have to go multiple slingshots we have to take. Yeah, that's see, what happens is that essentially you need a very high velocity which is required for object to be put to the moon surface from Earth. So that requires a very heavy rocket, which can take the high payload and provide that much kind of velocity which is required. So, of course, India is now self-reliant, and we are very much confident upon our rocket technology. But our rocket is not to the extent that it can do this operation. So we can't sit quiet, but at the same time. So naturally, ISRO has found the best solution. I think that is one of the good solutions, that with a smaller rocket, you take the object or the satellite to a certain height, and then subsequently you keep on doing the operations, which we call as basically we fire the engine at nearest point on the Earth, that is perigee, and then keep on increasing the other part of that, highest point on the over the surface of the Earth, that keeps on increasing. So like that, almost like in this case, 5 orbit changes has happened, and subsequently it has reached to the near moon, where the lunar insertion has happened. So this gives 2 things basically. One is that it's a cost effective, and it also saves a lot of fuel. But of course, there are challenges. As you walk along, there is always challenge that you may fall somewhere. So there are a number of challenges in this journey. But ISRO has mastered that, and now this is the 3rd attempt which we could do successfully. Similarly, Mars also was taken in the similar manner. I mean,
I'm so sure, sir.
Mars Orbiter Mission MOM, it was also launched with a similar thing.
And I'm guaranteeing the fact that so many would be getting the learnings ki kya hone wala hai. There's going to be so much that everybody is going to be understanding from Chandrayaan 3 as well. That's amazing. But sir, this question actually fascinates me in terms of imagining how does this entire landing on the moon also happens. So if you can just tell how does the landed descent on the moon, and how does that entire process goes forward?
Yeah, when we put the Chandrayaan in the lunar insertion mode, that time it will go in the elliptical orbit. The lower part will be at the lower level, something like 160 kilometers, and then it will have a longer elliptical orbit. But before this descent starts, we are almost like near 100 kilometer by 100 kilometer circular orbit. And then from there it is again brought to the 100 kilometer by 30 kilometer orbit. So 30 kilometer is the nearest point on the moon. So from there, actually descent starts. So that we call it as a power descent. So from 30 kilometer to 7.4 kilometer, there is a continuously we call rough braking phase, where the lander is brought down in terms of altitude and by reducing its velocity essentially. And then subsequently 7.4 kilometer to 6.5 kilometer, there is another phase called attitude hold phase. There, what happens before we land, we must know where are we going to land on moon. So at that altitude, it keeps on taking photograph of moon, and that time the spacecraft should be very steady. So attitude has to be hold for some time. And then subsequently from 6.5 kilometer up to 800 kilometer, it has got a fine braking phase. Slowly in that process, what has to be done, that lander whose legs are parallel to the moon surface has to be brought to the perpendicular to the moon surface, because it has to land vertically.
Right, sir.
So the position of the lander has to be changed from horizontal slowly to vertical. So this operation is very, very critical, and specifically because moon does not have its own atmosphere. Everything we have to do with our thrusters part, wherein fine to be done. Otherwise, there will be always aerodynamic track like Earth, but it's not there. So everything we have to do with the. Finally, from 800 meters to 150 meters to 60 meters, and finally to down. So this is the vertical descent. From vertically, it comes down, and ultimately it will have. Last part will be a kind of a free entry to the moon surface, where the velocity we maintain near 0, but definitely less than 2 meters per second. And finally, there are legs which has got switches.
Sir.
So once it touches the moon surface, that switch will get closed, and it will give indication that it has landed.
Amazing. The way you have so simply with the put out together. It's like everybody can easily understand and go back watching this interview again and again for a more detailed understanding. That's amazing. But so the communication part, how does that communication between lander and rover with Earth, how does that beautifully connect? Sir? How does that happen? The
Yeah,
communication.
communication is very tricky area here because
Okay.
distance is so much between the Earth and the Moon. So we have one center of ISRO which is at Bailalu, which has the ISRO's deep space network,
Okay.
and that communicates with the Chandrayaan 3. So in this case, now when we are at the now landing and rover, lander has direct communication with the ISDN, this ISRO deep space network, and rover communicates with the lander. So rover has got only one communication link, that is with the lander, but
Okay, sir.
lander has got three-way communication link. It has got with the rover, with the Earth, that is the Indian ISRO's deep space network, and it has got a third channel link with the Chandrayaan 2 orbiter, which is already there in the space. So in case there is any issue that lander is not able to talk to Earth ISDN, then lander will communicate to the orbiter already, which is there, Chandrayaan 2 orbiter, and orbiter will again connect to the ISDN. So communication part is dealt in this way.
Wow. And so I know this question, many people have already, kind of figured out the answer. So what is the cost of Chandrayaan 3 mission? If we can, tell our all listeners out and the viewers out here. Okay.
And so these missions give so much in return
Yes,
that
sir.
it's difficult to quantify how you can measure these returns against the cost. But of course, it has to be discussed. So cost which is known to me is 615 crores.
Yeah, but I'm sure.
But still, it is much less than you can see certain Hollywood movies. Budget also is higher than this.
Very good. And I think such missions just needs to be a non-stop process, and the way it is happening in our country, it just makes us so proud, sir. But sir, of course, when so much we've spoken about the objective. So according to you, of course, in the objective, the significance is also covered. But still, if I have to ask you, so what is the significance of Chandrayaan 3? And mostly everybody's, why does it have to go to moon at all? But what would be the significance of Chandrayaan 3, sir? And why to go to the moon at all is what everybody has been asking this question. So what would be Vinod sir's answer for this as well?
Right. Yeah. This is always people keep asking why should we invest so much money and why should we go to Moon, or why should we go to
Yes.
Mars, and why we spend so much on these programs, etc.
Hmm.
But see, ultimately these missions give a lot to the mankind.
What?
See, there is a theory that even Moon has been created by the impact of something like Mars kind of planet has sometime had hit the Earth, and part of the Earth has gone away from Earth's surface, and that created Moon. That is the one which is accepted theory, more or less.
Anji.
So the origin of the Earth itself is there in the Moon, actually. So if
Kya
we
baat.
study Moon, you know how the Earth has been formed. So basic objective is to study the composition of moon surface there, Chandrayaan 3, and as well as the what kind of atmosphere is there, as well as certain things, specifically availability of the water. So there are a number of things which provide such information wherein we can do a lot for the mankind. Now
Kya
we
baat.
think of moon colonization as well
Wow.
as moon tourism. So there are so many things. But definitely,
So true.
one area which people say also is that power generation
Yes, sir.
is on moon. So there are certain things which you possibly cannot do on Earth, or they are not effective on Earth,
Hmm.
that also can be done on moon.
Kya baat hai.
It changes the life on Earth definitely by exploring these things. And additional point, which is also a major point, that technologically India cannot be behind to any nation.
So
And
true.
these happen only when you keep exploring.
So
And
true.
such missions give scientists and engineers a lot of opportunity to overcome the challenges of
Kya
such a complex technological missions.
Amazing. So what has been an inspiration motive in your life that for all this 36 years and even today, this excitement that I see in your face also, and the passion that I see in this entire field of the work that you do. So what inspires you to keep going ahead in life? Vinodji.
I think if you see every ISRO scientist, you will see that they are very passionate.
So
working. I mean, once they start, they don't look back and they don't
true.
count number of hours, or they don't that's not good, but they sometimes they forget family and keep working. So basically, when you achieve something every time in life,
Wow.
you have dil mange more kind of
Ah,
attitude that
so
मिल गया तो और
nice.
कुछ करना चाहिए.
क्या
And
बात है.
second is also ISRO culture. Working culture is so good there is a team spirit in this. Without team, such a kind of event cannot happen. Today also, when you will see the kind of environment in the control room. You will
I
see
would love
so
to.
many people, right, with at all generations, very
क्या
young,
बात है.
veterans, and they have to work together in a sync and understand each other. And sometimes small problems can't be solved, even if whatever expert you are.
क्या बात.
Ultimately, if you work in team, these problems can be overcome. I think spirit of that ISRO was working, ISRO's culture, and always motivation to do something more and freedom to work.
क्या बात है, sir. That's amazing. I think this actually includes in standing out, giving out a message for all the youngsters and for all the Gen Zs who are also watching you. So, but still, if I have to ask you this additional question here, so what is your message for everyone who's going to watch this right now after just couple of moments this goes live? And today in the evening, everybody is like excited. In fact, just after hour, a lot of updates are going to start coming in. So, what's your message for everyone who's watching you live and also going to hear you on radio, on Fever FM?
Of course, my first message is that don't miss this event. This is a lifetime event, and it's a nail-biting finish. Uh, we all are fingers crossed, but definitely whatever it gives you, that is amazing, which you can't think in life. So such missions, and every time when you get some or other launches, you should watch. Now it's not that everybody is in the technical field or everybody, but people get motivated with such events. So that motivation can happen in any field.
क्या बात.
When you
Amazing.
also look at the Facebook page or Insta page of ISRO and people comment with so much energy, so much patriotism, you feel good. So I think irrespective of your profession, irrespective of your what you do, these kind of events which are of national pride and
Yes, sir.
international stature, the global standing, fills your heart with the happiness and also gives you a lot of energy to do anything whatever you are doing.
Yeah, baat hai, sir. And I love when you mentioned Dil Mange More. And trust me, I would want you to be sitting in the studio next time and discussing this world of the science and the things behind. And it was such a pleasure talking to you. So, matlab, itni sari baatein, to be very honest, even I didn't know about it. And so beautifully, Vinod ji, you just one after another unfolded all the science and everything behind it. बहुत मजा आया आपसे बात करके. और सर ये सीट यहाँ पर जो है वो खाली है, आपको जल्दी आना है स्टूडियो में.
Jarur, sure. Thank you so much, Nikki, for having me. And it will be my pleasure to be in studio sometime.